Well, this is interesting. I'm in the library of a local church named Emmanuel Episcopal Church. It's been here many, many years. And they have been gracious to give me their library. And I'm going to try the segments for 15 minutes, no longer than. And this has been a new month for me. I got an iPhone, which I really don't know how to use, but I'm working on it. And some reason it's not wanting to play. I'm not a technology man. I like to think that I have talent, but I'm a teacher. And my iPhone is letting me down. Anyway, I'll do my best. When I was thinking about how to start the lessons that I hope I'm going to be able to teach, there's so much when it comes to faith, worldviews, religions, but I thought I would start with the 3 R's. Responsibility is number one. I have a responsibility. I've been commissioned. I have been called, whatever language you want to use, to be a teacher. Now, I did not really think I was going to be a teacher, and I didn't really seek it. What I found November 14th, 1982, was a man named Jesus of Nazareth who wanted to be a part of my life. So I said a prayer at a morning service at First Baptist Church of Norfolk, and I began my walk with him. I would like to give you the full overview, but for right now, you need to accept the fact that I thought I was a Christian at the time. In fact, when my wife and I went to counseling for the pastor, Dr. Paul Mims, he asked me point blank, he said, "Are you a Christian?" And I said, "Yes, I was." Now, if he had delved deeper into that, he would have found out that what I meant was I was a Christian who believed in reincarnation. Now, reincarnation is a world belief. There's over 1 billion people that believe it. I believed it for 16 years of my life. And so consequently, I had a very strong testimony about the man Jesus, because I had come to believe through reading and studying, I had come to believe that Jesus also taught and believed very much in reincarnation. So what it comes down to when it comes to your faith, what you decide to follow, is you have to seek, and I put this up here. Our job is to seek God. We are to try our best to find him. And if we seek him with all our heart and with all our soul and with all our mind, he'll find us. Okay, so 16 years I believed in reincarnation. Now, there was a class being taught at First Baptist on religious cults. It was a young man that was teaching it, and he was very knowledgeable. He was a very strong Christian, employee of Christian Broadcasting Network, and it was a great class. And I got very caught up in studying religious cults, and he had to go on assignment out of the country because he was a journalist. And for some reason, he asked me to pick up the class, and I started teaching then. I did not have a background in teaching. I had no credentials. My degree is from Auburn University. I have a degree in political science. And yet, from the time I was very small, I read religious books. My grandmother, she had a cabinet in the front of our house. She had all these books, and I would go in when I was 7 or 8 years old and just look at the pictures. And, I had a very meager understanding, of course. But I mean, children don't really understand God that well, but they do learn some things. And I did go to churches. I loved going into the churches. And during the day, I just go and sit in a pew. Sometimes I would go sit where the pastor would sit on a Sunday morning, stand in the pulpit. And that to me was part of my childhood. And then when I graduated from high school, I went to Auburn and I started meeting a lot of people from a lot of different backgrounds. And I met this guy, and he was a disciple of Edgar Casey. Now, Edgar Casey, he has a ministry here in Virginia Beach. It's at the ocean front. He wrote many, many books. He claimed to be a Christian. He taught in a Presbyterian church at the ocean front, and I just ate up his books. He had answers for every question I had. So what I found was what's called a guru. Guru. Now, this is not what a person is supposed to do. You're not supposed to look for a teacher and then latch onto that person and just believe what they are teaching, believe what they've learned, and you shouldn't just absorb it and become like his disciple. We should be disciples, but not of an earthly teacher. We should seek the heavenly teacher. That's our responsibility. We are to find the teacher. Now, I'm a teacher. I love to teach. But if I'd read this scripture here that I'm going to read, is from James chapter 3, verse 1. And I would love for every person who stands on TV, stands in a pulpit at any point in time, I would love for them to read this and take it to heart. This was written by James. And he said, "Let not many of you become teachers, my brethren, knowing that as such, we shall incur a stricter judgment." Well, that doesn't sound good. A stricter judgment. That means that when I teach, I'm going to be held responsible for not only my actions and what I do, the choices I make, but I'm going to be responsible for every word out of my mouth, everything I teach. And therefore, I've got to be very, very conscious of you. Because if you're listening to me, you need to be confident that what I'm teaching is truth. Now, I'm going to hold up this right here because this is a fact. Truth never changes. Never changes. We've got to understand that truth is not something that you can play around with. You can't choose to believe some truth and disregard other truth. We are called to follow a particular person. Okay, the person that I found that day is named Jesus of Nazareth. But before we begin with any of the other R's, I wanted to keep this to 15 minutes. But as I teach, I'll get my clock to work. There's something you need to get for yourself, because anytime you take a class, and that's what I'm thinking this will evolve into, I'm planning on doing a series of classes. There will be basic classes, and then intermediate, and then advanced. There's nothing worse than being in a situation where you've got a teacher and they're teaching over your head. So I'm going to really get into the basics of the faith. And the basics of the faith start with a Bible, a book that you can trust. Now, this is the Bible that I use. I was given this Bible by my wife on our anniversary. And I'm so glad that the pastor that I had, she gave me this Bible on 21st day of April, 1983, which was our anniversary. And I have studied it my whole life. It's the New American Standard. I would recommend the New American Standard. I'm going to be using a lot of scripture as I teach. And one thing that you're going to want to do is get a very good book. Now, the thing about getting a Bible, and this is something I want to warn you about. Like I said, I had a very good pastor, Dr. Kenneth Hemphill. Ken emphasized that we are not to read commentaries. We're to read the Bible. And when you read the Bible, then he can teach you. But he can only teach you if you have him within your heart. And then he can be your guide. He can be the person who teaches you, not me. Now, what's interesting about trying to teach people, especially the Bible, we all are different levels of understanding. And that's why I said there would be 3 levels: basic, intermediate, and advanced. But it's not learning, it's not knowledge that will get you at the end into heaven. Knowledge can inform, but it cannot transform. What Christianity is about, it's all about this, is change. Now, I'm not used to talking the whole time, and I really don't like to talk that much, but since I don't have an audience, and I would like to at some point have some people in front of me so that I can kind of get them to ask me questions. I'm more inclined to answer questions. But if you don't want to change, then I would suggest that you stay away from a Bible teaching, Bible believing, a Christian church that's following Jesus of Nazareth. He calls us to follow him, but then he's not going to leave us the way we are. We have lots of problems in our life. A lot of people don't feel worthy to even walk in the door of a church. The things that they have done, they don't feel like God can forgive them. But God can forgive them, and he does. That is his plan. His plan is to forgive you. But in order to forgive you, you've got to do something called repenting. And repenting is very difficult. Now, I'm going to end right there for right now. I'm going to go to the next R. And then, because I want to keep this to, and I didn't get this timer working. I'm not sure how long this is. But it's about 15 minutes. So I'm going to end it right now. and I assume it's going to save it. So thank you for listening to me. Part 1. There will be others.